Hello and welcome to Frame.io Live. My name is Ryan, and today I am going to be taking you through a full walkthrough of everything Frame.io. There I am. Nice to see you. We are completely live. So, a couple things as we are getting started. This is a getting to know you session for Frame.io version 4. Maybe you are brand new to Frame.io, or maybe you just recently upgraded your account. Either way, this is definitely going to be a little bit more of an introductory session into everything V4. So thrilled that you've joined me today. My name is Ryan. I'm an enterprise customer success manager based out of New York City. I will be highlighting a couple of enterprise specific features over the course of today's session. However, even if you don't have an enterprise account, fear not, this will still be applicable to you and your specific workflows. Not only will we be going through some how-tos today, but I will also be talking conceptually of some of the ways that you could set up your account or leverage some of these features to make the most out of Frame.io for your specific workflow. We are a review and collaboration tool. We are completely secure and we're completely web-based. So if you're brand new and just getting started, welcome. We're thrilled to have you. I will be using the comment section to drop a couple of support articles as we go along today, but feel free to drop any questions that you have in that comment section as we go along over the course of today's session. Even to get things kickstarted, I would love to hear where you're tuning in from and if there's anything that you would like to get out of today. But just taking a look at our agenda, we are going to do a complete end-to-end overview of everything Frame.io, including talking about account settings. We'll start there. We'll also chat a little bit about user roles and some of the ways that you could set up and optimize your account, including creating projects. We'll also talk about the difference between workspaces and projects. Of course, we'll chat a little bit about uploading and actually getting content into Frame.io and some of the ways that you could organize. We'll also discuss commenting and annotating, not only internally, but also for external sharing. Of course, we'll chat about external sharing and how stakeholders can view content that you want to share with them. We'll also review a couple of new features, including metadata and collections. This is a completely recorded session today, so if you signed up, you will receive a link. You can also access that link at a later date to our YouTube page, where we have a rather robust repository of information regarding V4, not only getting started in how-tos, but also some case studies and a little bit more in-depth use cases. I am going to drop in the chat now to get things started a support article that just walks through getting started with Frame.io, a great place to start, something to bookmark, especially if you are just getting started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. I'm just here under app.frame.io. We are completely web-based. However, if you did just get started with an account, maybe you're also part of a team, you may have received an email where you could click on a link, create a sign-in, and then you'll have access into your account. We do have an integrated panel coming soon for Premiere Pro and After Effects later in the year, but we do have an iPhone and an iPad app where you're also able to access Frame.io. Getting things kickstarted, what exactly are you looking at? Over here, there is a list of what I have, workspaces. I have 2 listed right here. I'm an enterprise customer, so I can create as many workspaces as I would like. Workspaces are the highest level of organization that exists within your account. But within each workspace, you then have projects. So you can see here within my workspace marketing, I then have a handful of projects that are listed. This structure enables you to really stay organized. On this homepage, you can have a list of all of the projects within every single workspace. Part of the benefit to our enterprise folks of creating as many workspaces as you would like is not only for organization purposes, but also for personnel purposes. You can invite in specific users just at the workspace level, but you also can invite users in at just the project level. So it could be important to ask, who do I need to be a part of each individual project I'm working on? And who exactly do I want to see content associated with my account? I've seen workspaces broken out for our enterprise folks in the past based on specific clients, groupings of clients, maybe even an episodic series that you're working on. You could create your own completely separate projects then within that workspace. Okay. I know that I mentioned users. I do want to walk through users before we go much further. This is one of the more common questions that I receive is who on the account and what exactly can every individual do? I'm currently an account owner, so I have access to every single workspace, every single project. I also can adjust global settings within my account, which we're going to do in just a moment. There's also the ability to add a user as a content admin. This user does have access to all projects, content, and workspaces, but they don't actually have the ability to make global changes to account settings, just control the users. and the access. And then there's members. There are a couple of different member types. Like I mentioned, members can be invited in at the workspace level. So, for example, if I was to invite in somebody as a member in my marketing workspace, they'll automatically have access to every single project within my space. Okay. Over here on the right-hand side is where I can add in those members. So by clicking here, I can get a view of who exactly is already within my account, but the different member roles exist right here. So either full access, where a user can manage all resources within that workspace, they can upload, they could share. There's also the option to add in a user just to edit and share, so they can manage resources, they could download content. There's just an edit option, a comment only, or a view only. All of these users to occupy a license. So, like I said earlier, it could be important to ask yourself, what exactly do I need these users to do? If you need them to actually upload content into Frame, they will need to occupy one of these licenses. However, if they just need to view content, you could simply just share a link with those users. Those are reviewers, they never occupy a seat. I am going to share now an article that just outlines the user roles and permissions for your reference, just goes a little bit deeper into what each of those users have the ability to do. Let's chat a little bit about settings before we create a project and actually upload some content. I'm going to go down to the bottom left-hand corner of my account where you can see my orange block. That's the name of my account, which is just Ryan's account. From here, I can change the theme, ranging from light, dark, or the system theme. But let's hop into our settings. Users may see specific settings depending on their account type or their user role. However, this personal option, every user can import their photo and their name, which I highly recommend. So that way those users who leave comments, you know who is doing it. Users can also adjust their email and their password here to sign in. If you're an enterprise customer, we can enable either SSO or multi-factor authentication for your account. Moving on to notifications. We offer an option for email notification frequency ranging from every 5 minutes, 15 minutes, hourly, daily, or never. We've created this notification frequency in response to large quantities of actions that exist within your account. So this notification frequency will just prevent you from receiving an email anytime anything happens, as opposed to receiving an interval summary of all the actions within your account. So for example, every 15 minutes, you could receive a summary of all the actions that occur within your account. You do have the ability to adjust notifications either for comments or assets, as you see here. You can turn on notifications to be in-app, email, or push notifications. You can also multi-select or remove all of these different notification types. But do you want to receive notifications for general comments, replies, or app mentions? Same thing goes for these assets as well. If you upload content, if other people upload content, status changes, or if there's content that's assigned to you as well. Karen asked, when is it going to work properly with the latest Premiere Pro? The Premiere Pro integration does exist now. However, our team is making consistent updates to it. I think there's some updates coming at NAB in the first week of April. Over here under this usage tab, you can get an overview, just a snapshot of the members, any reviewers, storage, or workspaces within your account. However, I would recommend using the workspaces, users, and projects tab instead. Taking a look at the plan, you can see here I'm an enterprise account type. If you're on one of our retail plans, like a pro or a teams plan, you'll see that listed here. You also can make adjustments to that plan type. Same thing goes for billing, where you could input your billing details for any other account type that is non-enterprise, enterprise, or billed annually. Users, workspace, and projects will be a especially helpful place for any admins or any folks out there doing some more admin type responsibilities. You can see here that I have a couple of users already in my account, but let's add a new one. I know I showcased earlier that you could add users at the project level, but let's go ahead and add in a user here. I then can determine, do I want them to be a member, or can I also have somebody be a content admin? I can do that right here. But let's say I want to add in my colleague April. I can add in April's email address here, and I can add in a message. Once I add in April, then April will receive an email inviting her into this space. But with existing users, I do have the option to also filter and sort based on their last activity date. This could be helpful, especially if you have users that are occupying a license to determine if they're actually completing actions within your account. You also can click on an individual user and get an overview of which workspaces they're a part of and what level of access they have. Workspaces. I can create a new workspace from here. Let's say that we're working on a summer campaign for this upcoming summer. I can go ahead and create that workspace here. I also can create it at my home page. But with pre-existing workspaces, by clicking on that individual workspace over here on the right, I am going to get an overview of the members, the projects, and how much storage is being occupied within that specific workspace. And lastly, projects. Again, projects live within those workspaces, but very similar. I can filter based on users, active, inactive, or even deleted projects. I also can determine the creation date, and of course, I can sort based on storage as well. Taking a look at branding here, I can adjust the logo and the name of my individual account. I also can take a look at some branding that supersedes the entire account type here for shares. So this pertains to any time that I'm sharing content out externally. I can set default colors, logos, or headers. I've already recreated this to mimic that of my Frame.io colors. I want it to match our internal branding. The accent, the real, the logo as well. We'll showcase this in just a bit when I actually create a share link externally. And then content security. This especially pertains to our enterprise folks out there. Under sharing settings, you can determine how you want users to interact with any links that you share directly with them. So you can require a passphrase for public shares. You can turn that on or off. So do you need a passphrase for users to access that link? You also can set expiration dates ranging from none at all to custom. I'm not going to leave one now, but ultimately that just means that when you share a review link or a share link, it'll expire after a designated period of time. You also can allow downloads by default on any share link. So do you want to allow users to be able to download content you share with them? Secure share settings. These settings in particular are only for our enterprise folks. There is restricted domain restricted links. So do you want only users with a specific domain to be able to access content that you share? For example, at adobe.com, meaning that only users that have that domain will be able to view my content. I also can require secure share on my links. This just means that a user will need to sign into a Frame.io account, even a free Frame.io account, in order to be able to view the content that I've shared with them. I also can determine if that's a default. So do I want to allow either public content, meaning that that link could be continuously shared, or do I want to have it be a secure share link, meaning that the only users that could access it are the ones whose email it's shared with? Watermarking. I can apply watermarking on all internal assets. I also can require it on all external shares. I also can create templates right here. I'm just going to click on the icon for the pen, and let's go ahead and create a new template. I'm just going to call this one new template. I can add multiple text blocks. So for example, if I want to have multiple different sections of text, I can, that I can move around on the screen. So let's change this one from custom text. Let's say that we have a specific project name. And let's say that we want this one to maybe scroll at the bottom. And then I also want to have a secondary watermark here that's a little bit more static. Let's remove the name, but I do want to add in the name, email address, and IP address of the users who are viewing it. I can adjust the opacity and the rotation. I can also adjust the size of the text ranging from small to huge. I can adjust the color or the shadow. I do want this just here in the top right corner, but let's create this new watermark template that then can be applied at the time of external shares. All right. I'm going to click now in the top left corner to go back to my home screen. Please let me know if there's any questions about the settings associated with your account. I know that we created this new workspace for summer campaign that's just listed right down here, as you can see. I know that I discussed projects that live within each workspace. This is just an additional way to stay organized. You see here that I have some short edits or a social media project, some graphics or prop design, really however you see fit to organize your content. I would encourage that. There isn't a right or a wrong way to leverage Frame.io. However, staying organized is the name of the game, especially if you're working with a lot of content and a lot of different projects. You can view your content either in thumbnail or list format. I also can filter based on my active or inactive projects. So let's say that this social media project I'm done with, but I still want to keep it. I can mark it as inactive, which will just hide it from this main homepage. Still occupies storage, but it just means it's not necessarily visible. Then, if I was to filter based on all projects, I could see that this content is currently inactive. I also can sort based on the name or the date created or the status of these individual projects. Creating a new project is rather simple. You could just click create new project, and there's a couple of templates that exist here: digital photo production, location scouting, casting and auditions, prop inventory. But all of these different templates automatically have metadata fields and collections and some folders that are built in. I would encourage that if you're brand new to Frame, include some sample content just to see exactly some of the different ways that you could structure out your account and build content. Let's start from scratch though with a blank project. Let's give our project a name. Let's call this one casting photos. I know that we're going to be uploading some content. I also can make projects restricted. This just means that users will have to be re-invited into this project, just an added layer of security. Let's create this new project together. And now I have a complete empty sandbox within my summer campaign workspace for me to be able to upload content. I can just drag and drop, or I could click upload right here to select content. Alternatively, I could use this external app called the Frame.io Transfer app, where I could actually set defaults for content to upload automatically. It's also a little bit quicker using the Frame.io Transfer app for larger content that you're transferring. Additionally, I could click this plus button up here in the top, and I can either upload a folder or an individual asset. Let's upload a folder, and I can select from my desktop. I'm just using my casting photos, and I'm going to upload here. I do want to draw your attention over here to the left-hand corner where I can then see my casting photos that have been uploaded and just get an audit trail of all of the assets that I've uploaded. By opening up this folder, I then can see all of the assets that I uploaded. These, of course, are PNG files, but you can upload any type of file that you can imagine. Uh, Anything across the Microsoft Word suite, audio files, JPEGs, PDFs, of course, video files as well. I uploaded PNGs, but if you were to upload some video files, there's always a number of things that take place. So first, the original file is imported and saved into Frame. You'll always have access to that original, especially if you need to download it or send it to somebody else. We do transcode and create lightweight web and mobile friendly proxy versions of content. So you can play it back from anywhere you have access to Frame. I'll access some content in a bit, and we will take a look at some of the proxies that exist. But now that I have my content in, there's a couple of different ways that I could organize my content. I could create new folders, either within this subfolder or also at the asset level. So this is my main page here. You see here that I have a folder with all this content within it. I can take some of these assets, and by doing a right finger click, I have the option to create a share link. So do I want external folks to be able to see this? Do I want to add it to an already existing share link? I'll showcase that in a bit. Do I want to download it, copy, move, or duplicate? Let's say that I want to move some of this content. Let's keep it within my summer campaign. I'm just going to move those assets then into this greater folder structure that I have. And you can see here that now these assets have moved over into a different location. I could also move them into a different project or a different workspace if I see fit. Okay. I'm going to click this home button up in the top left corner to go back over to see a full list of my workspaces here. Let's go ahead and open up our short edits project. Let me just give you a tour exactly of what you're looking at. I know that I've uploaded some content, we've created some new projects, but within the project itself, let's do a brief overview. This panel right here going down, I can see a list of all of my assets and the folders within, including any recently deleted assets. Those will show for 30 days. I also have an option for collections, which kind of function like smart folders where I could create a collection and then leverage metadata to have content automatically pull into that collection. I'll showcase what that looks like here in just a moment. And then share links. Any content that I have shared out externally will show right here. I also can create a new share link from this panel. I can adjust the appearance of how I view content, either in thumbnail or list format. I also can adjust the card size, ranging from small, medium to large, just the size that I see my content. I also can adjust the aspect ratio, especially if I have content that's more optimized to view for social media, for example, or how it will look on a device. I also can adjust the thumbnail and I can flatten all of my folders to reveal every single asset within my project. This option up here for fields pertains to metadata tags. I can leverage pre-existing metadata tags, or alternatively, I also can create my own metadata tags. We'll get to that in just a bit. And I can sort content based on those tags or my own custom sort options. I do want to draw your attention up to the top right corner. I know I've mentioned the word panel, but these panels is how I'm able to customize and change my view. I can hide this panel here that shows assets, collections, and share links. So by clicking on this, it's going to adjust my view. Alternatively, if I was to click on an asset here within my project, I can open up a secondary panel here on the right-hand side that will just show my asset a little bit larger. So if I'm going through a large quantity of assets, could certainly be helpful just to see my asset at a higher view. I also can click and add an additional panel to also see pre-existing comments that are associated with that individual asset. So you can see here I have now all three panels broken out where I can see my assets, collections, and share links, all of the assets within my account, those individual assets a little bit larger, and then any comments associated as well. All of these views are customizable, so anything that you view will not be viewed by other individuals. It's all pertaining to your specific workflow and your personal preferences for how you want to view and organize your content. Let's open up this footage folder here. You can see here that when I move my mouse across these assets, it is going to scrub and just give me a little bit of an overview of what I'm looking at. Let's say that we're taking a look at these two assets. Maybe as part of our review process, we know that we want to use these assets as part of a final edit or a final deliverable. However, they're both really similar. And let's say that we decided to opt with one edit over another, but we still want to keep them together. We can leverage one of my favorite features, which is called version stacking, where I can take one asset and drag and drop it over the next. It's then going to create this version, as you can see here, v2, indicating that there's two different versions that exist within this stack. The benefit here being that I can then sort out my versions, but can have these two like assets compared side by side. I know that we've all had a large email thread or maybe some other type of thread where it's people are asking, is this the final asset? Is this final.final? Is this our final deliverable? This is just a really quick and easy way to be able to keep these assets together. And you can share out that entire version stack. So your stakeholders do have the ability to view any previous edits that have been made. I know I'm playing these in tandem side by side, but this purple line up here also indicates audio. So I can A/B test between a different voiceover or a different song between these two assets. I can adjust this version stack by clicking manage versions, and I can either move them around or also remove from stack, which could just be an alternative way to be able to stay organized with your content. Let's chat a little bit about commenting and annotating and what you can do here within this player page. I just opened up this asset. I know that we're going to use it as part of our final deliverable, but we want to leave a couple of comments internally before we actually share something out externally. I really like this shot. I think that there's some adjustments that we can make to color, and maybe I want to indicate to a couple of individuals exactly where we want to cut this shot. So looking down here in the bottom, there's an option for play pause. I can loop content. I also can adjust the playback speed or the audio. I can adjust how I view my content in the time codes, either in time format. So I can view it either in frame, standards, or time code. I do have the option to then adjust the quality. These are the proxy versions that I was mentioning earlier. I can also add some guides. So if I wanted to see how content will show on social media, for example, I can add those guides. I also can set something as either the frame for a thumbnail, or I can also download content as a still. Over here on the right is then where I can view and leave any comments associated with an asset. We'll also revisit this comment section in just a bit and chat about that with a little bit more depth. There's a handful of different types of comments that I could leave on an asset. Just a single comment. I can also leave a range-based comment, leaving brackets around a specific period of time. When we were going through notifications, I know that I mentioned at mentioning. So I can at mention a specific user within my account. I also can leave an annotation, a hashtag, or an anchored comment. And now for the first time, I also can include uploading a file to a comment type. Let's go ahead and leave a couple of different comments together. I know we watched this one all the way through. I like this shot, but I don't think that it needs to start until right here, for example. So let's go ahead and just leave a single comment, and I'm going to say, can we cut starting here? And I know that I had mentioned that there's a couple of different annotations that I can leave, but let's leave an at mention. And let's say that my colleague Luke is going to be editing this. I can say, can we cut it here? And I can at mention Luke, indicating that Luke is going to get a notification indicating where I want to cut it. When I click send, it is going to leave this comment right down here in the timeline. I can also view it by clicking on the comment specifically, and it will direct me to that location on my timeline. Let's say I do want to leave a range-based comment. And let's say I say, can we save this for another cut? I can then take this range-based bracket and I can indicate a specific location. By holding down the shift key, I also can get a little bit more granular exactly where I'm referring to. Okay. Leaving different types of comments though, particularly an annotation or hashtag. I really like this portion here, but I do feel like the sky is a little bit washed out over here. I wish it was a little bit more blue. So let's go ahead and leave a comment. Let's leave it actually a hashtag for our colorist team. And you can see that that turned purple. It's then going to leave a keyword for that comment. I've seen this leveraged for legal teams, for particular internal vernacular, but let's leave colorist for now. Can we brighten the sky to be more blue? It looks washed out. This icon here for annotation is then where I can leave an arrow, a line, a box, or I could draw freehand in pink, yellow, green, or orange. Let's go ahead and do an annotation in green, and let's leave an arrow. This is the portion that I'm referring to. Let's make that explicitly clear for our colorist out there that this is what we are talking about. By clicking on this asset, I also can see the annotation that is associated. Right. I do want to showcase this option here for an anchored comment. It's just this little anchored tag right here, but it's where I'm actually able to leave a specific anchor somewhere located on my screen. I've especially seen this used for PDFs or JPEGs, but let's say I want to leave this right over here. And let's say that I want to add in a file type like a voiceover, for example. I know that we're going to be doing some type of audio. I can leave that here. Let's say, let's use this voiceover script. Additionally, I can make content either public, meaning everybody can see it, or internal only, meaning that only individual users that have a sign in to my space will be able to see it. Okay. And of course, I can just upload a PDF as well, or a Word document, just directly to a comment. It doesn't necessarily have to be anchored exclusively. So you could leave those single comments, range-based, at mention, annotations, the hashtag, anchored comments, and can upload file types. A whole bunch of stuff that you could do. But this comment section can also be customized. So you can view either internal content, public content. I can also filter to see comments, just annotations, content that's completed. So for example, I could take this option and mark it as complete, meaning that this entire comment section can be a checklist for you and your team to stay organized and respond back directly to comments for desired outcomes. I also can search for comments, for example, colorists, and then it's going to reveal every comment that has that annotation that matches. I also can take these three dots and I can copy and paste these comments either onto a different asset. I can also export them to a different feature. So I could export them to Resolve, to Media Composer, to Final Cut. I also can print these comments. So can open up a separate audit trail, and then I can save this for a later date, especially if you have some external stakeholders that need to see all of the different comments or annotations that have been left. This is a great way to get a full audit trail of comments that have been associated with an asset. Karen also asked if there's a DaVinci Resolve integration. There's not. You can copy and paste those comments like I just mentioned. However, there's not a direct integration with Resolve. You can also see here that located under this asset, it's going to indicate how many comments are associated with each individual asset. For example, this one has 5. Yep. Let's chat a little bit about metadata and collections and then talk about sharing. Because not only could I just share out this asset individually, of course, I can create a new share that I can send to my stakeholders. Let's edit this in just a bit. But I do want to chat a little bit more about some of this organization in the form of metadata fields. So this asset here, for example, has a handful of different metadata fields that are already applied. Video status, release platform, release date, final edit, assignee, and rating. Let's take a look at this asset. We know that it has those shots that we had worked on. We're already a little bit deeper now into the process. All right. So we know that we have added a couple of tags for this final deliverable. We know that it is actually, let's change it to ready for release. We know that these individual assets are ready to go. They're ready to be deployed to these different platforms. For example, Facebook, X, Instagram, or YouTube. You can see that there's a couple other fields such as rating and assignee. So not only can I go up here to fields and I can see all of my metadata fields, there's 32 out of the box, but there's also the ability to create your own custom fields to add tags like what I just adjusted, such as video status. Let's say that there's a new field that we want to add to ensure that there is legal approval. So let's go ahead and change this one to legal approval. We need to send it to our council before we actually ship out. We can do either a multiple select, single line, number, a whole bunch of different options. Let's just leave toggle for this one, and let's make it green, indicating here legal approval is checked as yes. Our teams went through it, double check that there's no branding or anything that is inhibiting us from being able to actually ship out. So let's go ahead and add legal approval is checked to all of these different assets. I do want to showcase then collections, how this can show up, not only for that metadata tag that we just created, but also for some of the statuses that already exist. So for example, this option here for final assets, this is now a collection that auto updates based on the metadata tags that I had added to this content. Final edit is checked. That is my filter for my metadata fields. I've then sorted and grouped them based on the release platform. So how that will show up. My groupings are here at the top, Instagram, YouTube, for example. But then the filter is a final edit is checked yes. Okay. Let's create a new collection specifically for legal approval. So I can adjust my header, my title, all of that will sync, which then will show up when I actually go to share it out externally. So let's call this one legal approval. Let's give this a thumbs up. I can then add in a header over here in the top right hand corner, having the header size range from small to large. I have a logo, a description, and a background image. Let's add a background image. I can upload from my desktop, or I could select a pre-existing option here. I then can add in a description for this specific collection. I can select the source folder. Where do I want to pull content from? Is it from this entire project or just a specific folder? Let's pull content from my entire project. I then can adjust the appearance and the fields, but let's go to this filtered option, which is then where I can select the metadata fields that I want to pull into this collection. So this one is going to be legal approval is checked. So you can now see a list of the assets that within my project match those fields that I added. So if we were to go into here to short edits, let's take a look at some of these graphics. Let's go ahead and check on this metadata field for legal approval. And let's go back over into our collection, which is legal approval. And you can see that it's going to auto adjust with the assets that then match those fields that I just added. Kind of function like a smart folder. I mentioned that before. That's kind of the greatest parallel that I can draw between these two. The neat thing then about this collection is I can completely share it out with all of this custom branding that I had just added. Name, the header, all of those details. When I was chatting a little bit about settings, I was chatting about some of the default settings that pertains especially here at the time of external sharing. So by default, I did have a secure share link turned on, which means that a user will need to sign into a free Frame.io account before they can view content, but let's make this one public. I can also adjust the layout to be either grid, list, or reel, which means that it will autoplay. If you remember, I also created my own custom branding for my reel format at the time of external sharing. Depends on how you want users to be able to interact with your content. I also can enable users to comment, download, or see all versions that pertains to that version stacking that I mentioned earlier. I also can apply watermarking and select one feature field that I want users to be able to adjust. So let's say legal approval is the one that we do want users to adjust. Let's go ahead and open up this share link. This is exactly how it will show up for users who view content. Okay. They could open up these assets and they could see already any comments that are associated and can leave their own comments if you give them the ability to do so. That link will auto update if additional content is added into this collection that matches. However, I know that we created a share link based on some of that review and approval that we went through earlier with this asset in particular, but we didn't add any custom branding to it. So here under the share link option is where I have the option to add in again that header, a logo, a name, or a description. I can make any adjustments that I see fit to this individual share link. So let's say approval, early approval. How about that? I then can go back over here into my account and I can take any of these assets and I can drag and drop it into the pre-existing share link. I also could two-finger tap on an asset and I could add it to an existing share link and it's going to add those assets into that link that then, if it's public, could be reshared and accessed for users over and over again if desired. Clicking this all share links option will reveal every single review link or share link that you've created. You also have the ability to make them visible or shut that off. I also can determine how many individuals have viewed it and the date that it was created. I know that we've gone through a good amount of content today, including going through all of our settings within our account. We also chatted about users, workspaces, creating and managing projects, uploading content, commenting and annotating, metadata and collections, and external sharing. I know that that's a lot. However, a couple quick things to leave you with before we wrap up for today. The first is contacting our support team. You can reach this team 24/7 if you have questions about your account. There's also an option here for our knowledge base where you can access various content associated with Frame.io if you have questions about downloading, uploading, or any of our integrations. You also can submit a feature request here by clicking on the little light bulb. We'd love to hear from you if there's something that you wish was integrated into the tool. There's also an option here for keyboard shortcuts. So if you wanted to spend a little bit or save a little bit of time, I suppose, spending some time here can help reveal commenting, viewing, manipulating content within your account, and the various keyboard shortcuts that exist. I haven't seen any questions come through for today's session, but if you're watching this as pre-recorded content and wanted to get some questions live, I'm here every single Wednesday, just under Frame.io/live. I would love to see you back here again sometime soon. But on behalf of our entire team, thank you for letting us be a part of your creative process. I hope that this was a helpful session to get started with Frame.io v4. Again, my name is Ryan. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you right back here again next week. Take care.